Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, platinum producers, Arkatech Beatz. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome. I am Jugrnaut. I'm sorry I didn't get to introduce myself.
I'm Mike Trauma D.
We're gonna clap it up for everybody right
Welcome, welcome.
now. Welcome. So every week we get together and we talk about the music business, different situations to help independent artists, producers, singers, songwriters, rappers, how to navigate the music business. We talk about different topics. Sometimes we have different things that we talk about in terms of the culture, but for the most part, music business and different tips and tricks to help to avoid you from getting robbed.
Yeah.
Or today we're going to say screwed. Um, but for this episode today, we're going to be talking about um, how to not get screwed. And avoiding bad music producer deals. There's some situations out right now. There's some music producers are basically getting hammered. And we want to try to put some things out there to help some music producers to avoid getting some bad deals. Um, the first one, the first one that I want to talk about is there's a new artist out, um, a Glorilla, who's having a
Mm-hmm.
dispute with her producer over her hit song. Is that was FNN?
FNF, I think.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
FNF.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she's having a dispute with that. She signed a deal with Yo Gotti, right?
Right.
And big deal with Yo Gotti, based off of the success of that song. Um, but there's a dispute with the producer. The producer does not or has not relinquished his share of the song, or essentially he is in control of the song. Okay, let's clap that up. He is in control. He is in control of the song. And we want to use this as a key illustration of how not to get screwed, right? Because he is in control of the song, and because he's in control of the song now, they're trying to get a situation where they can release the song on a larger platform or through the label, but he's impeding that, right? Because he still owns a portion of the record, if not all of the record. I think she may have relinquished her rights when she signed her deal with Yo Gotti
Right.
for that
Right.
song, but he's not relinquishing his rights. So it's a monkey wrench in the middle of the deal. And of course, they're having a public dispute about it because, so forth and so on. So I wanted us to talk about that. The artist is kind of in their feelings a little bit. The artist is kind of taking the approach that, they wrote everything, and we're not saying that she didn't write everything and she's not talented in terms of being a writer and writing the song, but there's kind of a dismissive attitude toward the producer, kind of like, I could have wrote that song on any type of beat, like there's that kind of there's a little bit of that going on, as well as the producer was kind of saying, listen, before you did your deal, let's get on the same page so that we
Mm-hmm.
can negotiate things the right way, because typically this is what happens. They come for you, they want your song. We want to make sure that we're negotiating the right thing for the song to make sure that we're in the right driver's seat, because it is a hit record. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what he did right. Let's talk about where it could possibly go. And let's talk about how the producers can protect themselves, in scenarios like this, because you never know if your song is going to be that next hit song. And, you don't want to be in a situation where you're letting it go for peanuts. And that's another scenario that we're going to go into further into the program.
You know what, Jug, man? I really hope that this kind of like gives some shine on the producer and how important their part is. Because like you said, there's this connotation going around that kind of looks down on producers as if they're not contributing or their part is not unique or important.
Important. Yeah.
And now you look at this, the producers like, nah, I'm holding on to this because this is a hit. And you know I try to tell y'all from the jump, before you go and run off and make a deal, you got to come back to the producer and talk turkey. You know what I mean? We got to sit at the table and strategize and plot how we want to move forward. But because, like, as so many artists do, they go and they do whatever without the producer, not thinking about the producer, not caring, thinking that the show was just about them, that the record was just only made on them. Now they go and make these deals and they get jammed up because the producer didn't sign off, and you know, we got to understand that as an artist and a producer, you guys work together in creating a record. Like like this whole you're above the producer or the producer's above you, that whole thinking gotta stop. We come together. You bring your vocals, we bring the music, we come together, we meet in the middle, and we create something great, So let's we first the first thing, man, I really want to say is like that way of thinking, the way of producers, don't matter. I think that's number one. We got to get out of that way of thinking. Artists need to encourage and support, the thinking of we're in this together, 50-50, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's the first. Because if you do it any other way, you're gonna have issues, you know. As far as that situation, I think the producer did a great thing. I think he in his head, he was thinking forward. Um, from the beginning, he made the right decisions as far as not relinquishing his ownership, his share of the ownership. And of course, he put up money to support the project early, his studio, his promo campaigns. So of course, he put up some money in the beginning also to help, and kudos to him for not just jumping on the oh, we got a deal and just signing off. Taking a moment to say, you know what, I'm not going to relinquish this. Let's really strategize. Um, it seems like he is educated on uh, the record label business a bit, meaning he understands that it has a lot of sharks, and you can easily sign your rights away and lose everything. So kudos to him for taking that moment to make sure that uh, his situation was straight. And like producers, you gotta that's how you gotta think.
I'm not sure if he actually released it himself, right?
I'm not.
Because that would probably be the reason why he's such in the driver's seat. Because if he is the one that released it, right, and
Yeah,
if he released it, if he said, okay, I'm gonna release the record through TuneCore or whatever, he's in control, you know, of that because he released it, right? And
right.
that's what it seems like happened here. It seems like he was the one that released the record through his own
Released it
media.
initially.
Yep.
If so, would that be that he released it on his label per se, or
There's potential for that. And
so,
I think that's also what the situation was, that she was supposed to literally sign to him,
right?
and that didn't really happen, you know. And I think that's, that's part of the situation also too, what you see with like the 5 year foreign where, you know, Mace gave him, that small amount of money so that he had the permission to go and shop a bigger deal. I think that's
Right.
part of the problem, is that, hey, you know, um artist producer may not have the initial funds to sign the artist, and then that's what probably,
Right.
create that situation where he wasn't able to get her signed, and then all of a sudden the record blows up, and then
Hmm.
this is what now we're at this problem, you know. But at the end of the day, if, like you said, kudos to him and being in the driver's seat and having and thinking forward, you know. I want to kind of reverse a little bit to, like you were saying, about the disrespect and the dismissive nature of, today's artists and producers. Yeah, I understand there's a lot of guys out here making beats. I understand that. But when you're able to find a producer that you're able to get some tracks together and make something that's dope, like super dope,
Hmm.
that is a unique experience in itself, right? And you can't dismiss what that person brought to the table. Like you said, it's like a marriage. It's 50-50%. You're coming in, You got the beat, you inspired the song, and there's too much of this thing or this rhetoric where folks are like, oh well, that's just a producer. He just made the beat. How would you have a song without it?
There is no song without it.
There's no song without it. And if you could have gotten it from someone else, or if you can make a hit with everybody else, you should have 100 hits by now.
Yeah.
You know, the point is that what that producer brought to the table is what inspired the hit. That's what that producer brought to the table, right? So to be dismissive of him, to me is wrong, and I see it happening too often. And this is why we see a lot of artists fall off. A lot of artists like to think that, hey, that they're bigger than the producers, and all of a sudden, they jump around from producer to producer to producer, and all of a sudden, what you see happening is that the music just continues to decline until they out of here. And it happens more often than they think. And they may say, well, the artist fell off. No, the artist really didn't fall off. It's that the person that had inspired that greatness, you know, um, you can't remove yourself from that. You take a DJ Premier, or you take a RZA, you take him out of the mix. What do you have?
Hmm.
You don't get those phenomenal waves of records that these guys make. You just don't get
Right.
it. You know what I mean? So let's not act as if all producers are made the same. All producers are not made the same, and let's not act as if you know, like you can just remove the producer from the situation and you can just plug and play. Like you can just
Like you
plug
could
any
swap
beat
them.
in.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
to swap them out.
you
Like
can
they
swap
don't
them
work.
out. It
They
don't
don't
work
work
like
like
that.
that.
It just
Especially
doesn't.
when you find a, like you're saying, especially when you find a producer that really like finds your sounds, really helps create that backdrop, really like works with you and takes the time out to make sure that they create the records that's going to be tailored for your tone, your voice, your sound, where you're trying to go, someone who actually meets your goal, and a lot of artists, especially artists coming up, you're searching around looking for producers. And I think also, and we discussed this on the last podcast, you know, a lot of times, a lot of records sound the same is because you're just jumping from producer to producer versus finding maybe that one or two or that small little group that you stick to that you can vibe and sit with and create something unique, so respect the producers, man. Like
That's gonna be the new slogan, bro. Respect the producer,
that
man.
should have been the slogan, you know what I'm saying?
Like this joint is
Like
crazy right now, man. Like what I'm seeing is just ridiculous. Like it just doesn't make any sense. So back to trying to get to the producers to understand something like this. You want to be in a situation where you're not relinquishing all of your rights.
yeah.
I've been saying this, and we've been saying this on this platform for the past year. You can't relinquish all of your rights like you used to. Don't put yourselves in the situations in the old deals like we had to come up and we were stuck with. It's a new day. You guys now have access to TuneCore, DistroKid, all this stuff. These are different revenue streams that you guys wouldn't have had access to when we were doing it in the beginning.
Right.
Now you're in a situation where you don't have to necessarily be an entire work for hire where you relinquish all of the master rights and the only thing you're stuck with is the publishing, right?
Right.
You're supposed to see if you can get a portion of the master recording rights. We should be starting somewhere at 10%. If you can get 10 or more than that, you should be able to get more than that. There's another guy out here who was complaining about producers wanting 50% of the master recording rights. He was going crazy. Like, why would I give you 50% of the rights?
Yeah, he's bugging.
Why would I give you 50%? And you and I talked about this off air, which is, you know, the whole thing about being independent now was trying to level the playing field between the labels and the artists, right? And what we're
Right.
doing, is we're carrying on the same rabid and exploitative uh positioning of the old labels. Like the labels raped us. Now we're in a position of power and we're raping people again. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when did we learn from the label and say, okay, how are we going to elevate the culture? How are we going to make it more equitable? Or how are we going to make it a little bit more fair? Not saying that, hey, you're not supposed to get a return on your investment as a businessman, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that why are we continuing the tradition of bad deals? Of
Yeah,
like that's what I'm seeing happening, and it's like the artists now who are the new independent artists, they're taking on the same position as the old labels. It's like, hey, let me let me pay the producer damn near nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me pay the producer damn near nothing. Make sure that the producer gets no back end, which is just atrocious. Like no back end. Like if you can't give him in advance, I get it, but no back end.
right. I mean,
Like, come on.
it's mind boggling because and I used to say this a lot. Like, if you don't have the production, if you don't have the beats, if you don't have the music, like, what are you as an artist?
Right.
Your poetry night. That's all you. You're not. You don't have a song. There's no song without music. And for artists to say, you know what, I could just find someone else. Yeah, you can find someone else, but is that producer going to give you exactly what you need? That's going to work. That's going to be beneficial to your career. Like, I understand there's just so many producers out there. There's so many beat makers out there. I understand that, and unfortunately, a lot of beats do sound the same because there's so many people getting into this to production, and you know the bar has been lowered. The entry point is pretty low, but you still have to take the time to find the producers that's going to work with you, not just on a creative level, but they see the goal business wise. So when something like this happens with Gorilla, you know, there isn't this fight going on because the producer was actually trying to, in the beginning, quote unquote, he was saying that he was trying to protect the artist from making a bad deal, from making a bad situation. And if they would have been on the same page from jump and kind of just stayed together, this situation would have been a whole lot different. And he says this, she says that. So of course we're kind of speculating on a lot of things. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
This person says this, that person says that. So we don't. The public doesn't have uh,
All of the facts and
all of the facts.
in the situation.
But we're basing this on what we're putting together from what the both sides are saying. Management is saying, you know. But for the most part, when you're making these deals, the artist is making these deals, you need to go back and make sure the producers you're working with are good and in agreement. Because what's going to happen is you're going to either hold up your deal or you're going to jeopardize the deal. Totally. Now, Glorilla's kind of jammed up right now, and who knows how this is going to turn out.
Because the record ain't gonna stay hot forever.
Right.
And you need to be able to be out to be able to capitalize off of it. The one thing that he hasn't done is he hasn't shot out a cease and desist, which is probably the best thing. But to his credit, he's able to he retained the ownership, and retaining the ownership is the only thing that put him in the driver's seat because he would have been disregarded by the artist.
Right. So now they're trying to bring him to court. They're trying
Yeah,
to,
yeah, they can bring him to court, but they're gonna lose.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna lose if you don't have the rights. You can't sell something you don't have the rights to.
right.
Sorry, like you don't have the rights to it. You can't sell it. And this is what we're trying to tell the producers out there. Listen, once you sell those exclusive rights, it's game over for you.
Yeah,
And I've been saying this. You've been saying this. Once you sell these rights, once you sell these master recording rights, it's game over. And platforms like Airbit, BeatStars, whatever, so forth and so on, like they have to start educating its producers on this more. Like, listen, like you exclusive rights need to be really, really negotiated, and you have to really look at who's going to be getting these exclusive rights because some people have the ability to really exploit your music. Like some people have the ability to do it. Like,
but Jug, let's be clear though. there is a separate market, there is a separate lane for actual beat makers who just wants to do that. They just want to create music, loops,
and
those
keep
things
and keep it going.
specific for that, and keep it going. They want to collect their money, the subscriptions, whatever, and they're making a very good living just doing that. And that's great for that. But we're talking about the producers that's not in that lane, and they're expecting to
Perpetuity.
be right. They
Money,
expect
yeah.
them to be that next producer and to receive compensation and everything that comes with being a quote unquote producer. And you're selling your rights. You're signing the bad deals. You're doing whatever with no idea of what's to come. You know, there's some key words you need to look at, when you're looking at these contracts, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not giving away all of your rights. You want to make sure that, if you can, especially in an independent situation, that you're pretty much licensing your music, quote unquote, for maybe a certain time frame. But you have to create a situation for yourself that it leaves the door open for you to continue getting revenue.
And to
You don't want to,
renegotiate.
you don't want to, you don't want to close the door. You don't want anything final that's going to cut off your the income. So things like licensing, limited time, you know, things like that. You want to make sure those things are working on for you. You know, giving up your rights, selling everything, you know, like the moment you do that and that record becomes a hit, making millions and millions of dollars, you're gonna be home in that basement, mad as hell that you signed off, and now you're not getting any piece of that, and you'll be even lucky that if you even have credits, you know. Some of these exclusive rights doesn't allow you to even have any credits.
That's
Some of
that's
these
a
like
that's a
like if you
whole
sell it,
nother.
you know
You're out.
that you're out.
Publishing everything.
Everything. So their in-house production may take what you did and put their name on it, put their stamp on it, and that's it. So you may not even get credit. So here you are saying, "Yeah, I did that beat, I was a part of that beat," but you have nothing in stone showing
Prove it.
that. No, nothing on press, nothing on websites, nothing.
There's another scenario going on, and I think you and I talked about that too, where a cat, an artist, bought an exclusive right to a beat
Hmm.
for $400. That record, that beat became a record that wind up getting 60 million streams on Spotify.
Mm.
Now, to certain numbers, folks would say, "Hey, that would be over $200,000
Hmm.
in streaming income," right?
Okay.
Depending on which platform you released it on. I think they may say it's 0.0004 if you're like TuneCore, or if you're with DistroKid, it might be slightly less. But
Right.
baseline, let's say a little over $200,000. When does it become, when is it like good business, and when is it freaking exploitation? Like, you know what I'm saying? On one hand, it's good business, $400, and you're able to turn it into $250,000.
Well,
Like, at what point is that exploitation, and why? And again, like I said before, it's like, why are we, as independent artists and independent producers, why are we continuing the cycle of exploitation within Black music? Where now we have so much more control, and we can not exploit artists and producers, but we still continue to do so with these type of bad business deals.
I have to also blame the producers. They're allowing this. Like they, you have to have a way of doing business, and you have to stick to that across the board. If here you are selling your beat for $400, and you're giving up all your rights and exclusives, you're giving up everything. That's a decision that you've made. Maybe, something's going on at home and you need that money now or whatever. And I get it, some people are going through some real tough times, especially now, after this pandemic, and you're just trying to pick up the pieces and get what you can get. But at the same time, you can position yourself in a way that you don't X yourself out from future income, you know. But as a producer, you have to think that way. You have to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm starving now, but let me just collect this little bit up here. But contractually, I'll make sure that I'm open to continuing receiving income from this. I'm not going to X myself out. And if all producers kind of stuck together, producer union, if we all stuck together with that way of thinking, then we don't open the door to be treated as be treated as how they're treating. We won't be exploited. Because they'll come to the realization that, okay, this is how it is. When I go to a producer, I need to expect this. I need to expect that. That's across the board. But if we're not in agreement, then this guy's going to sell his for 400. That guy's going to sell his for $25. And this guy's going to just sell his publishing with his stuff. Like, the information is there, man. The information is there.
But I guess, and like you said, it's part of the producer's fault. But what I would ask that artist is, what's really good, artist? Like, what's really good? Like, if you did 60 million on streams alone, I can imagine what you did on shows, and I can imagine what you did on merch and so forth and so on. Right? Like, let's really talk about that. So you made way more money, which
Right.
the producer wouldn't share in that income, and we understand. We sign up for that. We don't share in that income. It's not a 360 deal.
Right.
At what point does a producer, say, you know what, I got this beat for, where's the gratitude? Is it just I paid $400 and you know what I'm saying? Like, where is that? Like, and I think that's what it is for me. I think is, where's that awareness where, it's a shame. It's a shame. And
you gotta have it in contract, man.
Listen, before you even say that, because when we were new and we were coming in and we talk about this, when we were new, we were coming in, we worked with the top guys, top of their game. Raekwon just finished the Purple Tape, right? Nas just came off of, right? It was written,
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I tripping? Right? Mm-hmm. Just about, right? These guys are at the pinnacle of their careers. We are coming in as new producers. Never did these guys ever take the position that they didn't have to pay us. And they didn't have to. We did it for free because of who they were. And they never took that position. So when you got these independent artists who are trying to make it on their own, and everybody's trying to make it on their own, they don't have the awareness to say, hey, this person helped me come up. Not saying that you got to split your money with them 50-50, but for $400, guy, come on, dude.
I think there are certain artists that are aware of their producers. You got Gucci in the beginning. He was very aware of Zaytoven.
Right.
You have Gunna, who's very aware of Turbo. So there are a handful of artists, but that really stems from having a quote unquote relationship. Being with the artist day in, day out, kind of rocking with the artist. Like, they have a relationship almost outside of music. So a lot of times that's when they will have that point of view. But when these artists are looking for a producer online, they don't have a relationship with them. They don't know who this guy is. They don't care. They're just trying to get a beat.
Got it.
I
got it, man. Listen, I got it.
So
all I'm saying is,
they're just gonna get what they could get.
Listen, man. So honestly, if I'm the producers out there and we see this guy doing this, like this dude should never get any music from any of us. like you know what I'm saying? Or that particular person needs to get charged through the nose.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Like I wouldn't cut off an opportunity if it's still going to be beneficial, but the contract will definitely be,
Yeah. Now you gotta
a
charge
certain
him, bro.
way. Yeah, like producers have to take note and really look at prior deals with prior people. Look what's going on, what's happening. So when it's your turn, you can be like, you know what? I'm not going to allow that. I want to do this. I want to do
Yeah.
that. Also, let's also mention, because we haven't mentioned it yet, and this is very important. And we can't talk about negotiation deals and contracts without obviously saying having an attorney. You need to have, like, one of the best things that you can have is a professional legal expert on your side to help you navigate some of the jargon that's be put in these contracts that are made to kind of fool you and trick you. Sometimes the words in these contracts do not mean the same as the words you use out in the street. So you see this word, and they actually, in some of the contracts, tell you what that word means in a different context. It'll say things like, uh, it'll say something, and then they'll say refer back to page two or item C on page three, and you have to kind of go back to see what does that word actually mean in terms of the agreement, because it could mean something different. So it's very good. I recommend that you have a professional legal advisor to help you navigate what the wording is and what it actually means. Because you know you'll sign a bad deal because you didn't understand what was being said. And at the same time, let's be for real. You're a kid out the hood. Whether it's producer, artist, you got a great opportunity. You're excited. You're emotional. They're dangling the bag in front of you, and you're like, "Yo, I could use that." And they throw this contract in front of you, and they say, "Oh, you gotta do is sign this," and way too much. Get too excited. The cameras are lit. That famous look where you're on IG signing the paperwork, getting the chain put on you. Welcome to the family. You've seen that all over. But you gotta stop and say, you know what? I need to make sure I look at this paperwork. I need to even go back to my team. I need to get some legal advice because I do not want to X myself out of future potential income. And a lot of times these contracts are built in a way that it's not beneficial for you. It's beneficial to the person supplying the contract, whether it's the record label, the artist, or any other company. So we got to get that out the way first. Make sure you have some sort of legal advice, legal representation, and even when you have legal representation, because at the end of the day, they work for you, you still have to go over the contracts. Plenty of times, me and Jug, we'll sit down and we spend hours going page by page, line by line, going over contracts. Even though when our attorney went through it, and if we had a question, we'll call up the attorney. We'll write it down. Okay, we got a question. What does that mean? What's that? Now I think we want to get that changed. Oh, you know what's a good idea? Let's put that in there. Let's see if that will fly. You know what? We want this. We want that, and we'll have our attorney insert that. Okay, so guys, please, man, like it's important to have that. And I understand attorneys could be, it could cost, it could get pricey. But if you're in this business and you're talking about investing in your future, you need to put away some paper for that. Definitely. That's gonna save you. That's gonna make sure that you create more opportunities and keep those doors open for you.
It's the realest thing, man. I feel you on that. With the attorney situation is like you need it. The only issue is that some of these deals aren't big enough for it.
Right.
So by the time you get an attorney, you're going to be negative in some of these cases because of the upfront money for independent artists is going to be a lot lower than dealing with the label situation. So it's definitely a sad situation to see, them sell their rights for such a low dollar amount, and it's also even more sad, that the artist doesn't have any awareness to feel like, okay, that they should, at least try to um give back a little bit. We're not saying that, hey, you got to give back the bank, but like have some awareness, man. Like, hey, that person, if they sold it for 400, they may need a little bit more. And if you made a big bag like that, but I can't shame people into that because they're like, well, I'm doing business. You got to take care of
Right.
your business. You
Right.
know,
You
okay,
can't you can't expect it.
can't expect
Uh,
it. I get it.
and
But what I don't like to see is I don't like to see the exploitation continuing to go on that we complain about in the mainstream music industry. We talk about that. That's what Prince and them was talking about. That's what Michael Jackson and them was talking about. And now that the
mhm.
independent artists have the power, you guys are continuing the same thing. Like you guys are still continuing the same cycle of exploitation as the labels. Like, why would you
Yeah.
do that? You know what I'm saying? But it just goes to show you that you know, in the name of quote unquote business, that's how they say it. It's we're just continuing the business the way we did it. And this we talked about this last time too. It's like, when we were talking about how academics was talking about the dusty rappers and stuff like that. Like they were still signing them to the bad deals that they got signed to. It's the same cycle. It's like we're whatever we were taught, which is business or quote unquote business, we're just still continuing it. We never take the chance to look at it and say, hey, this is just wrong in terms of exploitation, but
I
it
think,
is
and
what it is.
we spoke about this off air, man. I think that a lot of these artists, and this is a messed up way of looking at it, but I think a lot of these artists were in bad situations, bad deals, and they learned, they got themselves out of these bad deals, and now they have companies of their own, and they like you said, they're doing bad deals to other upcoming artists. And I think their mentality is more of a, I paid my dues, you got to pay your dues too. I went through this, so you got to go through that too. And I think that's the stance a lot of these artists are taking, and I don't think that's beneficial to the culture. I just think that that way of thinking, all it does is just keeps us in a certain space forever.
It's,
You're purposely just following the mess that was put before you. Instead of improving and fixing things. You know, like this podcast, for example, like we don't have to sit here and spend an hour or two out of our day to just give up game and just talk and just tell people how it is. I think with these new deals that artists have, they need to kind of coach these younger artists, and really give them some game, and really be fair on how this is run. It's unfortunate that they're doing the same things, and it's underneath the quote, the cloaked, you're paying dues. Like, dude, you pay dues so that everybody else don't got to.
have to pay the dues,
Like,
right?
come on.
Right.
Like we made the mistake so that we could come here and give you the free game, so you don't got to make the same dumb mistakes. Like, 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 it doesn't make any sense for me to make a mistake and then see you going through something and just keep my mouth shut on it so that you can make the same mistake. And then you feel go on and continue that and bring and tell the next person and don't say anything. That doesn't make any sense. If I made a mistake, I'm supposed to be able to say, hey, I made this mistake. Don't do it. Try
Or
the other route.
or you make the mistake, and I've created an infrastructure to capitalize off of your mistake.
Yeah,
Like
that's
like
crazy.
like, come on, like you know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing that's going on right now with your man Ye right now complaining about. But that's a different topic for a different day. You
If
know what I'm
you're in
saying?
the if like and to kind of touching on that too much, you gotta put yourself in a position where you can create opportunities for others so they don't got to go through the same things that you went through. That's the only way you're going to be able to nurture this culture and build it and push it further along. If we continue the same thing we've been doing, we're not going to get anywhere in this business, in this culture, or as people. you know and it's unfortunate that this way of thinking is just is just rampant. You know,
Yeah, it's part of it's again like you said, it's like we take the I guess what you said when you said we paid our dues, and I think some people take that as the next person doesn't want to work as hard as we work.
well,
You know,
some,
you know, versus saying, listen, these are true obstacles that shouldn't be in your way in the first place. Like,
right,
saying these are true obstacles that shouldn't even be here. Versus us saying, hey, well, um, you got to pay your dues. I overcame this, I overcame that. Yeah, but those shouldn't have been there in the first place. And it's just one of those type of situations where, I see the culture kind of doing things to their detriment. It's kind of like we're saying, how can we continue? How do we break the cycle? The cycle continues to just be more and more bad deals. And I'm just like, how do we have more control than ever,
right.
more ownership than ever,
Hmm.
and still perpetuating the same cycle of bad deals? So it's just a mindset that we've adopted from the people who are that people
Yep.
like to deem as the oppressor. It's the oppressed now becomes the oppressor.
Right.
And it was the complaints that we were making before that all of a sudden those are out the window. And like you said, some of us are taking it as, hey, you got to pay your dues, but it's like you know it goes beyond that. I think there's just a lack of awareness on
Hmm.
just the business itself, um trying to create a situation where we can push the culture forward, because it's the music business as it is right now, it does have its challenges, but I think we're contributing to that versus saying, like, listen, how can we be so independent and have all these different platforms and still it's still people still complaining about bad deals. Like, I still complaining about bad deals. All this
Yeah.
information that people are privy to, we still complaining about that. We still making bad deals. Like, like this is
I
weird
think
in this time frame. It's one thing when you didn't have access to the information. That's not the case anymore.
I think also, man. I think in a real life case scenario, I think people's also desperation supersedes, uh, their common sense.
I would agree with that.
I think the desperation for getting out of their environment or becoming that star or that opportunity, I think that desperation, you know, you know, really just like kicks common sense out the window. You're like I said, you're presented with this opportunity, and yeah, we all heard that the music business is shady. Yeah, we heard this all our lives. We heard this, but when that piece of paper comes in front of you, you have an artist that you look up to sitting across the table. You're in a major record label, or you're in that music studio looking like, wow, I'm here. You know, it can if you're not focused and if you're not like disciplined, you can easily just throw it all away at that moment, and you're one and done. So I really think that producers really, and artists, upcoming artists, whenever you're getting ready to sign a deal, there's a certain level of discipline you have to have. You really have to slow things down and really take the time out to look over the agreement, be realistic of what's happening. You kind of got to get rid of what we call smoke and mirrors, which is all the fancy things that's around you, the fancy chain, the nice vehicle being offered, the artist that you like that's sitting there, the environment with the studio and the being at the table at the quote unquote big record label. You gotta remove all of those things out the way, because after you sign that contract, in another 6 months to a year, you may not see those things anymore. So you really got to look at this paperwork, look at this contracts, really be clear on what you're getting, what you're giving up, what doors does it close, What doors does it open, if any? What are you entitled to? You got to ask yourself all of these questions, you know. And if you're not asking those questions, you're already on the wrong path, and you're going to lose it all, guaranteed.
Crazy, man. Like it's crazy when you say it like that, but that's the reality of it. You know, if you're not doing it, if you're not taking the time to slow it down and understand like how this thing is kind of structured to create demise, like it's like if you're not smart about it, and if you fall for the okey doke, like you said, the smoke and the mirrors, it's gonna put you in a situation where you'll get it now and you'll lose it just as quickly as you got it. You know,
Yeah.
so if we're going down to practical tips for producers, and I
Hmm.
want to talk about the practical tips for producers and saying, okay, listen, one, everybody at this point, especially when we're talking about the independent, if you're on the independent artist, excuse me, if you're on the independent artist um side where you're producing music for independent artists and you know that the budgets are lower and so forth and so on. Um, those type of deals should be licensing deals, like we said, right?
Hmm.
Leases, uh, premium leases, etc. And exclusive rights should kind of um, be kind of looked at per project, and you need to determine, what's the pros and cons of you doing an exclusive, depending on what the scope of what the artist on the other side needs to do.
Hmm.
Um, you really
Maybe
need
the
to,
length of time. Maybe the length of time,
and it might need to be a limited exclusive,
limit
right?
exclusive, and
Right?
also it could also be dependent of how many streams and how many units are sold per se.
Right. So those things need to be built in, meaning like,
Right.
yeah, it's exclusive and it's going to be exclusive to X amount of streams. And if it gets to X amount of streams or X amount of exploitations,
You gotta
okay,
you gotta you gotta give me another
you got to give me another set of dollars,
right to
or
extend
yeah,
the time.
or you have to now build me into the revenue stream of it.
Right.
Like even if it's exclusive, you should still be getting some sort of royalty assigned to yourself. Like,
Right.
it shouldn't be an exclusive situation where it's just paid and you don't get a royalty. Um, Especially if it's going to be exploited in the record business type of way. If it's going to be for an artist that's going to be, put out in the mainstream as a record song, so forth and so on. There needs to be some sort of royalty attached to that. This is not for the producers like we're talking about that do like, the loops and so forth and so on.
Right.
That's a different ball of wax. Um, we are talking just about those folks that are supplying tracks or completed tracks to artists
Hmm.
um, out there. If you're a producer that's now doing music for, say, for different types of content, because now different content needs different types of music.
Hmm.
That's a little bit different. Um, that's a little bit different. And typically, the people who are using your music in film projects and stuff like that, you have to negotiate some sort of license that they can use it in perpetuity without a quote unquote royalty. So you have to make sure that you're doing that separately from what we're talking about for the artist. But for producers that are doing stuff specifically for music placements, artist placements, you, if it's on an independent scale, we want to talk about licensing. You want to talk about making sure you're retaining some royalties on the master recording. You want to talk about maybe making sure that you continue to own your publishing.
Hmm.
Um, to get your percentages, so you should be half of the song in. What else?
Masters. We'll talk about masters.
Right. You said a portion of the master recording, you should be looking to either get a percentage of that,
Hmm.
to retain some of that, or like you said, a limited time where the masters may either revert back to you or so forth and so on. So you have some sort of recourse if the song blows up. Because if the song blows up, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you don't have anything to get from that song.
Right.
So you want to put yourself in that position. Um, Also, I think we talked about this before, trying to see if you can negotiate yourself as being featured on the song.
Hmm.
Um, that goes a long way.
Yep.
But that's it kind of depends on who you are as a producer. If the producer
Yeah.
has a bigger name, then yeah, you would like it to be artist featuring producer, or producer featuring artist, and
Right.
trying to get your name on it. And that's why we always say to producers to put your own music out, and making sure that you're establishing yourself as an artist slash producer, so that
Right.
you have that type of leverage when you're selling tracks.
Right.
If you still want to be the guy that's falling in the back, remember, half of the times no one is looking to check or checking to see who the producer is on these records.
Right.
So, it's a branding thing that we want to make sure that you're paying attention to. Um, and then also the copyright. What I hope for in the Glorilla situation is that the producer copyrighted the song.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they have the money to make things happen very quickly, and to have the and they'll stretch it out if they need to. These major companies, unfortunately, can really just come down to who has more money and who can last longer in these negotiations or these deals or these lawsuits. Who can stretch it out, who's going to tap out quicker. you know and if you don't have your copyright and certain paperwork in place, that can and it, that could be an issue. If how are you going to prove that it's actually yours? you know
And what the artist has to be very concerned about is that you're tying this all up in court, and you're losing momentum.
yeah.
You're losing
and their
momentum on
and
the
their
song.
and their money is being held up to right now.
Yep.
There's a
So
freeze on the money.
freeze on everything. So
Yeah.
you are putting yourself in a situation where you and I know it's about timing and momentum.
Yeah.
Um, you don't want to waste your time trying to get the song. You can't get the song to the market. Like, you
You
don't
can't
want
even do a remix with the record right now.
right. Can't do anything. Yeah, this is the situation, and if you don't drop it at the right time, you're gonna lose the momentum on that, because that could be, like, can you imagine, having a summer record that doesn't come out during the summer? It's like,
Oh, oh, wow.
and I know, like, there were some records that just, if they didn't come out during the summertime,
Yeah.
it's like,
How about the major artists that want to jump on your remix,
yeah,
and you can't put out the record because it
this is
uses the same record parts, uses the same portions of the beat.
this
Can't.
is this is part of the
Oh,
situation. So what I would hope in her case is that they resolve it quickly, because you could be missing out on a major bag, especially because it's a hit record.
also another thing that I wanted to bring up was and we said this doesn't apply to uh the beat makers that are making packs, loops, those things. But let's be clear: if you're an artist or a producer and you're shopping around looking for loops, you have to be clear on what you're getting. You got to read the fine print, because here you are thinking you're getting exclusive, or vice versa, and it's the opposite. You got to make sure that what you're signing up for is what you're getting. You know, there are plenty of producers that's making beats and packs where it's royalty free, and there's nothing tied in once they give you the beat, or once they give you the parts, the samples, the waves, whatever. It's all good. You can go ahead and do whatever you want to do. No strings. However, there are a lot that have strings attached. So here you are thinking you're getting 100% exclusive everything, and you go and get it, and then you go right and make that placement with that major artist, and here comes that loop creator, like, my fine print says you got to break me off, or the fine print says that I need to be in part of the negotiation, And we touched on this on another podcast, but I feel this is suitable for this one as well. You have to fine print. You gotta be careful. You know what you're getting into when you're signing these deals and you're making these moves. You have to be very clear on what you're signing up for.
So essentially, that's when you're incorporating, like you said, loops and packs into your music, and
Hmm.
you're getting it placed, like you said, free to fine print. I'm seeing a lot of that happening lately,
Yeah,
where there are like 5 and 6 producers as part of
yeah, one pack. Yeah,
one
yep,
loop, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and it creates a negotiation nightmare. And some people will just like pass on your song. They'll love
yeah,
your record, and then they'll just say, "Hey, it's too much red tape. It's too hard to get too many parties to approve to the splits." Um, and they'll keep it moving, and you lose that placement.
yeah.
So there's a lot of that happening too. So it's whew, that is the
I just feel for that to be what holds you up from your success. Plenty of times we used to get those phone calls. Oh, we got a placement here, and we're off to the races. We're good. We're going here. Um, to contract. Um, the only problems we've had before were just like the quote unquote sample clearances.
and
And
that's really
again,
the same thing. It's a sample clearance because sample clearance is a third party that helped to
right,
create the music, and they may not agree to those terms, and they may say, "Hey, screw your record,"
right,
and then you're just ass out of luck.
and you're out of luck. But when you have five, six, seven other producers that you have to agree with, man, it just
Damn near
makes it a
impossible
whole
to
lot
enjoy.
harder. Yeah, that record that yeah, Jay-Z's jumping on this record. Now it goes from a yay to a I hope the other guys will clear the records, you know, quickly, and then you know you may not get anything. They may clear it, but like, you don't get nothing.
I think in those kind of cases, it has to be a point man. Like we have to create a point man that's going to make the decision for the group. Like if you help orchestrate those sessions with 10 producers or whatever, there needs to be a point person, and that point person needs to say, "Hey, fellas, this is what the deal is, and that's what it is." You know,
Yeah, but that person
I wouldn't be
they have
able
to set up
to.
early.
Yeah,
They
I
have to set up
wouldn't be in a
early.
situation where you would have 10 producers or 6 producers on the track, and everybody's have a free for all. Everybody thinks that they're supposed to get this, that, and the third, and
Nah.
you see that you see it. You know, you see those kind of scenarios playing themselves out over too many different medians, too many too many cooks in the kitchen, and destroying everything.
Yeah, there needs to be an agreement to even be part of that opportunity from the beginning.
Right.
Before we even have you come in and do your part. Hey, this is what we have 10 producers that we work with. Um, if it just so happens that three or four of y'all are coming together in one room and creating a beat, and this is how we're going to do it, and it needs to be clear up front because too many times after the fact, one producer's like, hey, I want this. Oh, no, I did this. I want that. And it becomes a free for all, like you said. And then the label is like, forget it. You know, the artist is like, forget it. I'm not doing this. And not only does that hurt the opportunity, but it hurts future opportunities. Now, when that artist hears your name, they're like, nah, I don't want to work with him. He had issues last time. I was trying to clear a record with him, and it just didn't work out. They're going to just move on to the next one.
So, Architect Beats Music Business Podcast, folks.
Yep.
Make sure you're reaching out to us. www.architectbeats.com. You can find us on all social media platforms at Architect Beats. YouTube has a new handle feature where you can search for people
Yeah,
using
that's cool.
at Architect Beats. How about that? So
Yeah.
everybody's on the wave now. But
Yeah,
what we hope for is that the producers and everybody else can kind of get some insight from this. If you have any
absolutely.
questions or concerns,
Hit
you
us
know,
up.
hit us up because we're here to help.
Yeah, we
So,
sharing our experiences. We've made mistakes, and hopefully you guys don't got to go through that. And if you learn something along the way, I encourage you to share that information with others because that's how we're going to move forward as a culture and not continue this destructive circle that we're in, keeping us as a culture, keeping us in the same spot of not growing, not elevating, and not reaching our full potential, not just as individuals, but as a community and as a culture.
I feel you on that, cuz. So next time,
Peace.
peace.
Arkatech Beatz.